Good morning, class. Today, in light of the film that we are watching, Bowling for Columbine, we are going to talk about the art of persuasion and rhetorical devices. The three that we're going to address today is ethos, pathos, and logos. These are things that are used every day to convince you to buy an argument or buy an object or believe a claim, or all of those things are used to persuade you to do something or act in a certain way. So you can think about it like this. If you watched a commercial that persuaded you to go somewhere or do something or buy something, then they persuaded you to do that through their commercial using either ethos, logos, or pathos. So, and if they did, or if you did whatever it was that they were wanting you to do, then they persuaded you. And this is a very important thing because this happens every day all around you. People are trying to persuade you of certain things. So just a little background on this. These concepts really started in Greece with some of the ancient philosophers. And one of them, very famous one, Aristotle. Some of you may have heard of him, some of you not. But he was studying this thousands of years ago. Maybe not thousands. A while back. Anyway, he said, here's a quote. He said, "Now the proofs furnished by the speech," so whoever's making a speech to you, the proof that they give you is of three kinds. The first depends on the moral character of the speaker. The second, upon putting the hearer into a certain frame of mind, making you feel something, or upon the speech itself as it proves or seems to prove something, some argument, some claim, right? So let's start with ethos, okay? Ethos is whether or not the person making the claim seems ethical, believable, credible, right? Or likable. So some words that you may know that come from ethos are ethical and ethics. In thinking of ethos, you can think about it whether or not that person is credible in making their argument. So for instance, if you went to the doctor and they gave you advice or some medicine or something, you would most likely take it because they are credible and you believe them, right? So even if you don't understand the medicine behind it, you would believe them and follow their advice. But let's say that you were at the mall with a friend of yours and they felt sick and somebody offered them a pill. Would that seem credible? Would that seem like that would be something that you should do? Because that's probably not a good idea because that person does not have ethos. Does that make sense? Any questions so far? Okay. So, let me just looking at my notes. For instance, I will just say another thing that you can think of when you turn up like who you believe and stuff. If you're watching a basketball game and the guys all up on the desk at the halftime or whatever are talking, you would probably believe or at least listen to what they say because they seem like experts about what they're talking about. So ethos has to do with credibility. You believe them, they're likable, and so thus they persuade you of something, right? Okay, moving on. Let's get to pathos, which is all about feeling. A couple of words that you may know that stem from pathos are empathy and sympathy and pathetic, maybe, or antipathy. So pathos creates an emotional response in a person. So they persuade you by appealing to your emotions, right? So you're not making a decision based on the validity of a claim. You are basing it on how you feel about the argument. Okay, so in which case, pathos can be very manipulative. It can be used in a very negative or in not your best interest, but to just make you feel something so strongly that you would argue on that side or take that side or that premise without really knowing, whether or not the claim is valid. So some of the things that use pathos or that people use when using pathos are like fear, love, patriotism, hatred, joy, humor, guilt. All these things are appealing to your emotional side, right? So your feeling side. So I'm going to show you a couple of videos here. I'm going to show one depicting one way of using pathos and a different way of using. So I'm going to show you those, and I'm also going to show you a poster that I'll put up on the screen in a moment. Okay, lastly, before we get to that, just for the sake of this video, I'm not going to show all that because I don't have a projector here. We're going to talk about logos, which, in putting it in terms of words that you already know, logic and logical. So what do you think that is appealing to? Logos refers to any attempt to appeal to your intellect. It uses a different side of your brain, and it uses reason, such as patterns, conventions, and other reasoning methods to be convincing and to persuade you. So things that are using logos could be statistics, numbers, data, anything where somebody can say, here is this shows this proves that, right? So that's appealing to the logical side of your mind, where you can see and reason that their argument makes sense. Okay? Let me just see. So we've gone over it now, over these three terms for now. And so I'm going to show you five. I have five. I'm going to show you 5 scenarios, and you're going to tell me which of these devices that are appealing to you or persuading you, or which do you think is being used to persuade you. So I do want you to know that all of these devices are used in a really good argument, right? So if somebody's appealing to your pathos, logos, and ethos all at the same time, they're making a strong argument because they're appealing to everything. And I think that in watching this film, I think you're going to see a number of instances where the director uses that to craft and structure his film so that you are being appealed to on all your different persuasive areas, right? So is there any questions so far? Because if not, I'm going to show you those different scenarios, and we're going to come back and talk about it as a class, just going over these things, and then we will continue on. Okay, thanks. Let's get going.